Yeah, the glare is not as bad in my glasses with the darker screen.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to another exciting time with Urban Birds and Bees. My name is Kerry Neal. I am your host and moderator for Urban Birds and Bees. And wow, you better strap in and get ready for this evening. We got the one and only Tracci Johnson, and we're going to give you a formal bio in just a little bit, but we're talking about daddy issues. Daddy issues. This should be quite interesting. So I want you to sit back, relax. Again, everyone on Facebook, we thank you for joining us as well. We invite you to share with all your family and friends that are following Tracci and so forth and following me. And this should be quite the interesting conversation. Now, we want to make this very clear that we are a virtual cookout. That means that we want you to participate. We like to simulate a live studio audience participation. So whether you got something to say, you have a comment, you can use the chat, raise your hand. If you want to make a comment, a verbal comment, we'll bring you on the screen. Now, those of you who are on Facebook, you won't have that opportunity to actually come on live with us, but certainly you can use the chat, express your opinions, you have a question, whatever else. I'm here. Trace is obviously here to answer any and all your questions. I'm telling you, it's going to be quite provocative, okay? So welcome to this evening's conversation where we're diving into the topic, Daddy's Issues, a raw and honest look at how the absence or brokenness of a father-daughter relationship can shape self-worth, relationships, and the pursuit of love. This episode isn't about the pain necessarily, but it's about the healing, the growth, and the power of rewriting the story. Our special guest, Tracci Johnson. Our special guest, Tracci Johnson, like I said, I'll be introducing her in just a little bit. Now, just really quick, I'm going to tell you about Urban Birds and Bees, what we're all about here. Okay, so Urban Birds and Bees is a podcast, and we provide a safe, honest space for open conversations about love, relationships, and the complexities of intimacy within the Black community. So we explore generational patterns, address we address unspoken truths, and focus on vulnerability, healing, and intentional connection, empowering our listeners to rewrite their love stories with clarity, authenticity, and hope. And that's who we are here at Urban Birds and Bees. So now I'm going to formally introduce Tracci Johnson, who is an author, celebrity hairstylist, transformational coach, salon owner, ministry student, and the voice behind Daddyless Daughters movement. Wow. We just got started and we already got that about you, Tracy. It's amazing, right? Known as the original Pixie Queen, and we got to ask you about that too, that Pixie Queen thing. That's very interesting, right? Known as the original Pixie Queen and a master of precision cuts, she built her reputation through her legendary Eclipse Salon and now leads Legacy by Tracci Johnson on Melrose Avenue in Los Angeles. Now, listen to her client list. This is pretty deep. The red carpet roll call. She has styled icons such as Nia Long, Wendy Raquel Robinson, Kelly Williams, Babyface, LL Cool J's wife, Simone Smith, Mickey Howard, Cicely Tyson, Lynn Whitfield, Tisha Campbell, Keisha Cole, Natalie Cole, Brandy, Jada Pinkett Smith, Tashina Arnold, and Nicole Murphy, just to name a few. Now, beyond beauty, Tracci has transformed her personal story into a mission. As a daddyless daughter herself, she now helps women heal from the wounds of fatherlessness through coaching, ministry, and conversation that reach the heart. She is also the author of the best-selling book, Dangerous Mistrust. Here it is right here, Dangerous Mistrust. You got to get your copy. This is a phenomenal book. Dangerous Mistrust. Get that. See that? Make sure I get my hand out the way. Dangerous Mistrust. Can you guys see it? Up, down, there it is. Dangerous Mistrust, which is a must buy. And we will talk more about the book and where you can get it. Tracci, how are you doing this evening?
I'm great. How are you?
So, I mean, oh my God. I mean, you've just done so much in your career and still doing. I mean, you're just such a freaking rock star. And then
Oh,
you're doing some amazing things for God in terms of helping women and stuff. We got to talk more about that. So let's dive in without any further ado. So our topic this evening is daddyless daughters, excuse me, daddy issues. But
right.
you are a champion for daddyless daughters. So just describe for us, what is a daddyless daughter and what's the difference between that and someone with daddy issues? Please explain.
Well, pretty much any person who is the daddyless daughter will have daddy issues.
Okay.
Um, well, first and foremost, I think that people need to understand that it's not exclusive to women who don't have a father in the home. Your father could very much been in the home, but been
Oh, so he could still be around and it still could be
oh, absolutely. Oh,
interesting.
absolutely.
Talk
Because
more about that.
just because a father is there doesn't mean he's there. You could be there, you could be
Oh,
there with your presence. You can be there, with it in body, but it does not mean that you were there emotionally. You could be there physically. That's what I'm trying to say, but does not mean
mm,
you're there emotionally. So,
mm.
and then there are fathers who were in the home that mistreated their mothers, and fathers who had other families across town. You have all kinds of different dynamics that will create daddy issues. So it's
Interesting.
not just that your father wasn't there. My father, my mom and dad, they got divorced when I was a year old. So my father was not in my life most of the time. I probably don't, my earliest memory of my father would probably be around 7 years old.
Mm,
That was when he started to come around, but he only came around just enough to deposit, more trauma, because he was always disappointing me, telling me that he promising me things, but never coming through. So that set up something in me, because sometimes I wish that he was never around, if he just never came into my life, because
mm.
sometimes you get more damage from the person when they're there than you would get if they just weren't there. So
Wow.
yeah, so it there's a vast, you know, uh, array of fathers that were not present, and whatever the reasons were, they not necessarily even physically, but emotionally unavailable fathers.
Mm,
Um, will will set up daddy issues in your children.
yeah,
So you
yeah.
have those issues, and they all, and I'm telling you, if your father was not the type of father that poured into you, because women, we've discussed this before, that's how we get our value, is from our fathers.
Okay.
Our intrinsic value comes from our father. So if we don't get that from our father, then we're left with no value, and we have to
Mm,
figure it out. We go through life trying to figure out our value, trying to find our value in other places, trying to find our value in our careers, and in relationships and friendships, and whatever. A lot of daddyless daughters become people pleasers, and
mm.
doormats sometimes for people, because they're just trying to get some type of value from outside of, themselves, like outside of what they should have gotten from their fathers.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I kind of think about that too. That's actually pretty powerful because I'm not sure dads really understand that, right?
No, they don't.
And obviously it's probably, they kind of get their blueprint from their dad and their dad. And then
Of
you think
course.
about all the stuff we've gone through from particularly in the Black community in terms of slavery, the whole idea of epigenetics and all the dysfunctional stuff and how it trickles down. And now we're starting to confront some of the stuff sort of head on. So this is very interesting. We're going to dive into a lot more of that. We just want to encourage everyone, if you have a question, comment, please just go into the chat. Feel free to comment. Same thing on Facebook. If you got a question, whatever the case may be, let us know, chime in. But Tracy, let's talk a little bit about you. So you've been you're kind of a juggernaut in the space of like hair and other things, fashion and whatever else, you know, set the table for us a little bit, right? Tell us a little bit about you. This I want you to kind of flex. And I want you to
So
flex
that's
from the standpoint that I want people to kind of really, because a lot of us, like most folks know Tracci Johnson. I get that. But there might be some crazy um, idea of some person out there that doesn't know about you. So
I'm sure
consider
there's
that
some.
that person might exist. Please
Yeah, whatever.
indulge us. Please indulge us, please.
Okay, well, I am originally from Oakland, California. I grew up, in the 80s in Oakland,
Yay area. No.
in the Yay area. Yeah, my mentor was the late Ron Newton, who was the son of Black Panther leader Huey P. Newton, and who I spend a lot of time with actually. Um, and so I've been in this business now for 30 plus years. Moved to Los Angeles in 1990, setting out to become a celebrity hairstylist. Knew I was going to be that. There was no ifs, ands, or buts
Hold
about
on. So you set out to become a celebrity here? That was
Oh,
your goal.
absolutely. I
Okay.
said it in high school. When I was in high school, I told my friends, and they can attest to this today, that I was going to go to Los Angeles, open up a salon, and be a celebrity hairstylist. And I knew that I was going to do that. And
Wow.
when I went back to my 10-year reunion, I will never forget. My friends were like, Tracci, you're probably the only person in this room that did exactly what they said they were going to do. And
Wow.
and I did exactly what I said I was going to do. And it happened. I knew it was going to happen. It was no doubt in my mind. And I don't know if that was just that naive, kind of faith or whatever, but it worked. That's all I have to say. But anyway, back to, you already kind of talked about who, my clientele, was, you named a few, because there's definitely more. I was the owner of the legendary Eclipse Salon, which was upstairs from Georgia's, who was a legendary restaurant.
Oh man, everybody
Denzel
was
Washington
from
owned.
back in the day. Yeah,
We
that was
we shared
interesting.
that building, and so it was like it was a trip. That, I mean, really, I have so many stories from that time. It was amazing, to say the least. Let's see what
Sounds
else.
like another sounds like another book that you could write,
Oh
right?
yeah, I could have done a whole book about my career, literally.
Yeah.
Um, I've been, of course, in several publications. Then we don't really have magazines like that anymore, but of course, I've been in Essence and on the cover of I can't even think of the doggone salon. The salon. What was the name of that very popular magazine? Anyway, it was a hair
Ebony,
magazine. Huh?
Ebony.
No, 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 no. It was a hair magazine. But anyway, I can't even
Anyway,
right now. And it's not even that important. But I've been on covers of some hair magazines. I've of course done the Grammys, the Oscars, the Image Awards. I'm actually a Emmy Award nominee. I didn't win, but I was nominated for an Emmy. Um, I was known as one of the top 10 African American stylists in the country. I am one of the 50 most influential women in the industry. Um, and basically, I don't, I'm not good at this part. So let's move to the next one. Let's move to the next
no,
topic. This
no,
part I don't like doing. So
and was it's fair to say with that level of notoriety and success and things like that, you probably lived a very fairly plush life to some degree. Is that fair to say?
very fair to say. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I did. I did.
yeah, yeah,
Absolutely did.
yeah.
I was the girl that had everything I wanted.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, there's a reason why I'm asking her to flex a little bit on this, right? Because I want you to really get a sense of who she is, where she was now, but her story that's outlined in this book right here, Dangerous Mistrust, right? And speaking of your book, so one of the things I noticed in the preface, in the introductory part of the book, you talked about selective trust, okay? Selective trust in God. You said trust in Him for some things, but not for others.
Mhm.
Interesting. Explain that. What did you mean by that? And when you kind of start your book off of that, and
Mhm.
and if you could connect that to does the deficit you felt from your dad in terms of like this love or connection, whatever that is,
Mhm.
talk about that a little bit.
Okay, well, first you asked about the selective part.
Yeah.
So just like I said earlier, when I decided that I was going to move to Los Angeles and I was going to be a celebrity hairstylist and I was going to own a salon, I had faith. I mean, when I tell you I had big faith. So I knew that was going to happen. And I trusted that God was going to make that happen. I really did.
Mm,
Now, when it came to matters of the heart, though, the my vulnerable side, the things that could hurt me, the things that like relationships, for example,
right.
I had to stay in control of those things.
Mm,
I wasn't releasing those things to God. I stayed in control of those things because I figured if I was in control of those things, then they couldn't hurt me.
sure.
So the vulnerability part of my life, the vulnerable part of my life, is the part that I stayed in control of. And of course, that is directly related to my father disappointing me time and time and time and time again. So I
Mm,
felt like I was going to be disappointed. I was going to be hurt. Um, every situation that I thought was going to be great was going to end up being a disappointment.
mm,
And so if I stayed in control of those things, then I could kind of like make sure that I wasn't disappointed. I mean, although I was every single time, if you read my book, you'll see I ended up being disappointed. But I thought it was a good idea initially to
yeah.
stay in control of my anything that was vulnerable, anything that could cause me a heartbreak or any type of pain when it came to that.
Okay. So, okay, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But you've kind of mentioned this since we've started the podcast, but I want you to really drill down and give us a sense of who you were. And particularly, I think it's the second chapter of your book, I believe, first or second chapter of the book,
Mm-hmm.
where you talk about your little girl, your daddy prompts you a pony. I want you to kind of tell that story. I want you to talk about that relationship and sort of give us some examples of maybe how you long for your dad and how he would disappoint you and
Mm-hmm.
how that carried over in contrast particularly with your mother. So I think it's interesting to understand the impact of the father and the mother, if you can kind of talk about that a little bit.
Well, so my just like I said earlier, that my first real memory of my father would be that 7-year-old Tracy.
Right.
That my father was like, I mean, I wouldn't say he was a Rolling Stone. I was his last child because he got what do you call it? What do men get when they're done having kids? A
A
vasectomy.
vasectomy,
Right.
okay. So you're the youngest.
That's,
How many siblings you have? How
I
many
have
siblings?
three. I have two older sisters from my
Got it.
father.
Okay.
So if it wasn't for the fact that my father had a vasectomy after me, I probably have about 20 siblings right now. So anyway, I know I would. I know I would.
They didn't
But
have
anyway,
condoms back then, or
huh?
they didn't
Would
have
you say?
condoms back then.
Well, I don't think he was. He was. My dad was in and out of marriages. He was in
Okay.
and out of marriages.
Yeah.
So okay. So my father. Let's just paint this picture. My father was
Yeah.
a preacher. Let's just start there. He
He was a
was a
preacher.
preacher. Yeah.
Wow.
And he had this thing where he felt like he had to be married in order to have sex. So he would just like get married. This sounds ridiculous. He would get married to have sex. And then he would just do this over and over and over. Then he gets a divorce. Then he gets married. Then he gets divorced. Then he gets married. So that's why I said if he didn't have a vasectomy after me, then he would have had more children. Okay. So my father used to always have these women in his life who had children.
Right.
So he would give them the world. like, because he's trying to impress their mothers, so he would give them the world. So the first, that fateful day that really set up some things in me at 7 years old was when my father had came to my house for Christmas. It was Christmas Day.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so excited that he was coming. And he comes to my house. He had promised me that he was going to buy me a bike. So he comes to my house empty-handed. You know, my father was a dresser. He loved to dress. He had his jewelry. He was wearing this, you know, he's a Rolex guy. He was, you know, he was groomed from head to toe. But my father was, he was a liar. He used to lie to me all the time. So he comes to my house telling me he's bringing me a bike, didn't bring me a bike. And then he sits up in the middle of my floor and he tells me and brags to me about how he bought his girlfriend's 4 children new bikes. And I'm standing there like, okay, I hear you saying that you bought your girlfriend's children bikes. Now, where's mine? And my mom asked him, like, where's Tracy's bike that you promised him? And then he said, he goes on to this outlandish story that he tells about how he's going to buy me a horse. First of all, I live in an apartment building. So where in the heck was I going to store a horse in the first place? We didn't have.
And you were 7 years old at this time?
I was 7 years old at this time.
Okay.
Right. So, and I remember this. This stuff is very vivid in my memory. So my mom said to him,
hold on. Do you think that your dad was intentionally trying to hurt you by telling what he did with the other kids and not for you? I mean,
I don't think he was intentionally trying to hurt me. I just think he really just didn't know the effects of what this was doing to me.
Got it.
I don't think he really understood what he was doing.
Got it.
He didn't. And then, you know, when I delved into his growing up and his, you know, how he was reared, I understood how he, you know, how he became this type of father. I really did. So later on, of course, I was able to go back and look at what was going on with him and how come he became that type of father. But we can get into that later. But
yeah.
So he, you know, he promised me this horse. Now we're on a horse. Okay. So he tells me that he's gonna bring me back this horse. So the day that he said he's gonna bring me back this horse, I'm all excited. My mother knew he wasn't bringing back no horse, right? But she didn't want to crush my little spirit and say, you know, your father's a big fat liar. He's not getting ready to bring you back no horse. So she was trying to soften the blow, like, you know, well, what are we going to do with a horse? We don't have any place to put a horse. I don't think it's a good idea for a 7-year-old to have a horse, you know, stuff like that.
So your mother actually thinks that your dad's going to follow through as well?
No, she didn't. No, she didn't. It's not that she didn't. It's not that she didn't think that he was going to follow through. She may have hoped he would follow through.
Right.
Even though it was ridiculous.
Right.
Anyway, the promise was ridiculous.
Right.
She may have hoped he was going to follow through, but she knew that this, just in case he didn't, she was trying to soften the blow.
She was trying to soften it. That makes total sense.
Yeah. But let me tell you something. She was unsuccessful at softening the blow because my daddy said he was bringing me a horse, and that's all it was to it. I knew my daddy was bringing me a horse, and I was, you know, I was out bragging to my friends. I'm getting ready to get a horse. I'm so excited. And my friends were like, no, you're not getting a horse. You know, like, it's just ridiculous. So, so the day that he was supposed to bring me the horse, we didn't hear from him. He said he was coming that morning. We never heard from him. The whole day goes by. We don't hear from him. I'm sitting on the couch. I mean, not on the couch, on the porch all day long from morning to night, waiting for him to show up. I got on my best dress. I'm all excited. You know, I feel like a little princess this day. But as the day goes on, I have this panic that comes over me like this. I'm almost having a panic attack because now I'm seeing, okay, he lied. He's not coming. Yeah, but I was just so hopeful, thinking, you know, every car that passed by, I'm looking, oh, there's my daddy. I think he's coming, mama. You know, I wouldn't even go inside to use the bathroom without my mother coming outside to take my post because I thought I would miss him. Like, that's 7-year-old thinking.
Wow. So you dug in deep, 10 toes down, and trusting your dad it was going to do.
Dug in deep,
Wow.
10 toes down. Yes.
And even right now, that memory is very vivid for you.
Very
That's
vivid because right now as I'm telling this story, I'm feeling the heaviness on my chest, thinking about how
wow.
what that did to me in that moment. Like I
Mm,
remember the feeling that I had that day, like how dark it was. It felt like this cloud just was hovering over me,
mhm.
and I felt like I was going to suffocate because I could not believe that my father, I'm his baby girl, I'm his youngest
Right,
girl, right? And my
right,
other sisters are much older than me, so I'm like the baby.
right.
And that he would tell me this and treat me like I did not matter at all.
Mm,
That what he said to me didn't matter. And that's how he treated it. I didn't even hear from him probably for another 4 or 5 years after that. And that's what he did. And so what that did to me is it set up something in me that not even the man who's supposed to love me, supposed to show me my values, supposed to pour into me, he didn't even love me. He
yeah,
didn't even think I was important enough to keep his word.
yeah,
So I already didn't have feel like I had any value.
right.
So when he did that to me, it just kind of like solidified that in me. So I became deathly afraid of disappointment.
Yeah,
I still struggle with that. I still
yeah.
to this day struggle with disappointment. Like you
Hmm.
cannot tell me that you're going to do something and don't do it.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah,
have a big problem with that, right?
yeah.
And so and I mean I'm better, I'm better.
Right, yeah, 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 sure.
But it used to be this, I used to have this thing where it was the worst thing that you could do to me is disappoint me. Like
Yeah,
that would like it would cause me to hyperventilate. That's
right.
how bad it was.
Let me stop you right there. One
Mhm.
thing I just want to just sort of react to that. That is so powerful. And just really quickly too, I want you to know that the audience is really feeling you too. Stephanie Farmer, part of our organization, she
Mhm.
says that her
Right,
heart
Stephanie?
is heavy listening to the story, and she can feel for then your girl Phyllis Cadell is saying that unfortunately is very common,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate.
It's so sad.
So talk to us, because it was interesting talking to Donald Bell. One thing I remember Donald talking about, he mentioned that one reason why the importance of the dad in the daughter's life is so important because that's the one man in the girl's life that is so important because what happens is that's the one man that can love her unconditionally. Doesn't
Right.
need anything in return. There's no strings attached. So that's the type of love they need to see. And absent of that, then they're sort of ongoing filling in the blank. He
Right.
also talked about that it's not uncommon. Oh, excuse me, because he's been in the ministry for a long time, but he also talked about um, over his 40 years in ministry, whenever he's counseled women, the central issue of every single woman he's ever encountered stemmed back to their dad. I was blown away. I was
Absolutely.
like, whoa, it was
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
So talk to us, talk about the breadcrumbs from that situation
Mm.
and maybe how it played itself out into maybe a relationship or two,
Mm.
as you became an adult, or some maybe a couple examples or something like that. So
Yeah. Well, imagine being this little girl
sure.
who didn't have no one poured any value into her, like the man who was supposed to, because that's where we get it from.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
imagine not having that. Imagine not even feeling like you're worthy of anything, basically. Imagine feeling that and then getting into relationships. So but this is what I would do. So I don't even know how I came up with this, but I was in survival mode from that day forward.
mm,
I would only get into relationships that couldn't hurt me, that couldn't disappoint me.
explain.
I would get into relationships with men that I really didn't like that much.
Interesting.
That's the honest to God truth.
So wait a minute. So a guy would shoot a shot. You guys
Uh-huh.
are, and maybe for some, you kind of appreciate the fact that he's approaching you, but maybe he's not really your type. That you know this is not something you're into, but you would indulge it anyway because it's like, yeah, I
It
ain't got
was
to worry
safe
about being
because it was
this.
safe. So I settled a
Wow.
lot. I settled a lot. I got into
Mm.
relationships where people would look at me like, Tracy, I know you got to be kidding me. You really get ready to date that man? You
Well,
really
well, well, this
you
is
really get ready to
amplified
do
by
that?
well, this is amplified by who you are in terms of, you've grown in terms of notoriety and things like that, the glitz and the
Exactly.
glamour.
So
So at
you would
least
expect me to
aesthetically
date a
speaking,
certain type. You would
yeah, it's
expect
very, yeah,
me
yeah,
to date a
yeah,
certain type, right?
right.
The type that I was expected to date, though, I avoided like the plague because
Mm,
those are the ones that could hurt me. Those are
mm.
the ones that could break my heart. Those are the ones that,
Ooh.
because if I felt like I had no value, I would have to perform in those relationships to
Mm,
make sure you saw. I had to be this person. I couldn't just be me. I couldn't just, although I come to find out later in my life that I am, just Tracy is enough. Just Tracy. Like I do have a whole lot to offer, a whole lot to offer. And I learned that later. It took me years
mm,
to learn that. It took me years to really understand who I am and my real value. It took me years, but that was God who had to show me that. But yeah, so I was in these relationships. This is in my 20s and my 30s and 40s, I will say in my 40s as well.
sure.
That I lived this life. And I was so convinced that I was in control because I was in control of this, this whole way of thinking. I was in control of my relationships. I did not release that to God. I didn't pray about it. I didn't none of that. I was like, I know what I'm going to do in order for me to never feel this pain ever again. I'm
Mhm.
going to be in relationships with men that I'm not connected to. That if
Mm.
they disappoint me, it won't hurt. I can just be like, oh, okay, next, next. That's how I lived my life. For years, I lived my life like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what I want to do is I'm going to share my screen because I want to bring out a part of. Can you see that? Okay, everybody can see that. Okay, this is a part
Okay, there
of
we
this is part of your book.
go. Uh-huh.
I found to be quite fascinating, right?
Uh-huh.
And so, if you guys will indulge me, because I want to read some of it. Again, we're talking about um, the Dangerous Mistrust, Tracy's book, right?
Mhm.
And this book I thought was very interesting. This was a particular part. Now there's 10 chapters to the book, but I think this is interesting. This is kind of like the fifth chapter, like the midway part of the book, right? And I thought this was very interesting. So I'm going to read some of this, and Trace, I want you to kind of react to some of it.
Okay.
So this is just like excerpts from around the book, around about the fifth chapter, the page 74 to 75.
Mhm.
You said, I had tunnel vision about what constituted happiness: a husband and two babies. In the busyness of my pursuit, I didn't take the time to really think about the temporal, to
Be honest.
meditate on heavenly issues, to
Mhm.
take inventory of where my life was heading, or to seek guidance from the Lord. In
Mhm.
retrospect, the problem was that when I slowed down, I could hear. Now, this is super deep. I'm trying to like not to get emotional reading this. You said, but in retrospect, the problem was when I slowed down, I could hear the muffled cries of the wounded child inside of me. I had to suppress her so I could continue to function as a strong, self sufficient, take charge woman I was driven to represent in the world. I want to stop that right there for a second.
Mhm. Yes.
Please explain that, because I think, with all due respect, and I love our Black women doing some great things, or they, are getting more education, amassing assets, um, and making great money in their careers and things of that nature. And there's sort of the celebration, and particularly for Black women. But I sort of draw this comparison because you kind of represent that Black woman,
Right.
but then you were kind of pulling back the layers. You're pulling back the covers and let us know, well, here's what's going on.
Right.
Talk about that and connect that to the daddy issue that we're talking about here on today's podcast.
Okay, well, think about it. When you have no father, you have no covering.
Hmm.
You have no protection. And you feel that. You feel that every day. You don't have anyone that you can lean on. I have friends who can run to their dad if they need some money, or if they need some help, or if they need some whatever, they can go to their father. But when you don't have that, then you have to become your own support system.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's what happens. I became an overachiever because I had to.
Mm.
I didn't, if I didn't, then who was I going to fall back on? Like,
Yeah.
I can't fall. I don't have anyone to fall back on. I had to do it. I had to make it. That's why I was so sure that I was going to make it, because I didn't
Mm.
have I had nothing to fall back on. I had no
Mm.
father that I could run to. My mother was a teacher and then became a principal. She wasn't financially able to really help me when I needed to be helped or anything like that. So I didn't have that. I didn't have it. Of course, I had my
Mhm.
mom's support.
Mhm.
Um, my mother was a daddyless daughter as well, even though her father was in the home, the same exact thing.
Also, your mom, that's right. Your mom, she went through the same. Wow. Yeah.
Well, she went through what I mean, I heard story might even be worse than mine, because my
Yeah.
grandfather was very abusive.
Yeah.
So you have that, but my mother, instead of, you know, being some women handle things different.
Sure.
So my mother was never going to allow abuse
Yeah.
because she experienced abuse. There was no way there was going to be any abuse in my home, period,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
ever. so
Right.
yeah, so sometimes people repeat the cycle, sometimes people just like say, oh no, never, no, no, no. And that was my mother. So
Yeah.
anyway, so yeah, because of that, I became a self, a high achiever,
High achiever. Okay.
because I had to, and I had no one to lean on my whole life, even now.
But Tracy, hold on for a minute. So, how is it that success, doing all these great things, how
Mhm.
does that translate to, or even in your mind, thinking that that muffles the child, that love star child, that's within you, the little girl, the little Tracy, so to speak. Why that? Why not something else? Why not therapy or talk to some friends or other? Why
Well,
that? You.
that's how it started.
That's how I
I
started.
thought
Okay.
that, getting and gaining all of the success, and if you read my book, you'll see that, yes, I gained the success. I had everything that I wanted, but I realized that even though I had everything that I wanted, I didn't have what I needed.
Yeah, what you needed. Okay.
So I was very successful, young, 20 in my 20s, making a ton of money, driving
Yeah.
any car I wanted to drive, living where I wanted to live, but miserable.
Yeah.
So I had to like go through that so that I can understand that that wasn't the key to my happiness. So
Hmm.
once I realized that, then after that, the success and all that, even though I was successful, it didn't mean as much to me.
Sure.
Even to this day, I really understand that success means absolutely nothing if you're not happy.
Oh.
It means
Oh.
absolutely nothing. So
Oh.
I went on my pursuit of happiness. And that's what I wanted. I wanted that. And I knew that it was only because I spent my life, especially in the matter of the heart, I spent my life leaving God out of all of those decisions, leaving God out of that part of my life. And that was the part of my life that was in shambles.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was
No,
because I left God out. It was because I was doing it on my own. And finally, one day I woke up after suicide, thoughts of suicide, and actually on the day that I wanted to commit suicide, because I was so miserable, and no one could understand why I was miserable, but I was and successful at the same time. No one could understand that. So I had no one to talk to. Because if I was to tell somebody that I was sad, they would be like, "What? Sad? What you mean you
right.
sad? How you sad? What,
You, Tracci Johnson,
you,
you got a
yeah,
big
you
house,
Tracci
nice
Johnson. You in
car.
every magazine. You what? You got this beautiful home. You drive what?" I was sad. I could give all of that up. That day, none of it mattered. Nothing that I had mattered. I was
Tracci,
just
hold that thought for a second. I want to go back to your book real quick,
okay.
because you kind of talk about this. And this was, I thought was, oh man, this is so powerful, man. Are you guys enjoying this? Look, they're having a ball here on, well, I wouldn't say a ball, but they're totally identifying. We have this Adria Chia.
Adria Chia.
Yeah,
Hi,
she said this
Adria.
is good information, a great topic. I can relate, unfortunately. I know you know Claudine Cooper. She's
Yes, I know
chiming in
Claudine.
as
Hey,
well.
Claudine.
Yeah, she's getting everybody in Inglewood in shape. Here's one thing I just thought was interesting, right? About this part
Deborah.
of the book, this right here. You said I had to suppress her so I could continue to function as a strong, self-sufficient, take charge woman. I was driven to represent the world. I couldn't slow down and let my thoughts catch up with me because of the stillness. Because in the stillness of my thoughts, there was a deafening reality of just how unhappy and discontented I was with life. The woman who
Yeah.
had everything and so forth, star, fame, everything else. And then you make a very interesting observation here. You said business is one of Satan's most effective tactics because it distracts us from the things of God as we get caught up in doing good things. We're gonna, this
Can
person
you
right
mute
here
everyone?
is,
Mute everyone?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's muted. Yeah, they didn't know any better.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, so it said, as we caught up doing good things rather than doing God things. But then this is kind of connected to where what you were just saying. You said, while still in my 20s, I had everything I could want materially because of my success in the industry, but it was never enough to make me happy. I was highly successful, making lots of money, capable of buying whatever I wanted, driving a Mercedes convertible and wearing top fashions, but I was just sad, and you didn't have anyone you could be transparent with.
Yep.
Wow. 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 Now, please go back to what you were talking about. You were kind of wrestling with thoughts of suicide. That was pretty riveting.
Well, when you're dreaming and you have fantasies of what it's going to be like when you finally make it, you know
Right.
and
Right.
I made it. I actually accomplished
According to
everything.
the world standards, you made it. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, according to my dreams, I made it.
Your dreams. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Right. According to what I had dreamt about and what I wanted for my life, I did. I did it. And not only did it happen, it was better than what I even expected it to it happened bigger than what I could have ever imagined, right?
Hmm.
So imagine having all of that, but then coming home every night and crying into your pillow all night because you're sad and depressed.
Wow.
And
Wow.
because all I really
Wow.
wanted was love. All I really wanted
Mm-hmm.
was a husband and children. I wanted that. And I was so lonely. But it wasn't even that. I realized later, of course, the husband and the children weren't even going to make me happy. That I just needed to do the work for myself, the inner work that I needed to do. But, of course, that was a little bit further out in my journey.
Sure.
During that period of time, I was still looking for my validation outside of myself and
Mm.
outside of God. I was looking for it through, my career, my friends, my people, everybody, just anything outside of what I was supposed to be looking for at the time. I just didn't know. I just didn't know what I was doing wrong. I had no idea.
So like at what cost did maintaining that counterfeit life and perception, like what impact did it have on you emotionally, spiritually, relationally, physically? Talk a little bit about that as well, please.
Oh, it had a huge impact on it, on everything. I was good at being two people though. I was good at, you know, showing up as this strong,
Whoa, wait a minute. Say that again. You were good.
as
Wow.
showing what
Ooh. You say
I was
you
good
were
at.
good at being two people. Wow.
Most people
Ladies
are.
and gentlemen, you guys know anybody like that that's good at being completely one person in public and somebody else elsewhere? Wow. Please continue. I'm sorry.
No, most people are good at being two people. Most people are. Most people wear
Most
masks.
people are good to good.
Most people wear masks all the time because
Mhm.
they are not honest with themselves and they've not done the work. So I was one of those people at one point in my life that
Sure.
I just was so busy having pity parties and feeling sorry for myself, making people really setting an altar up for my failures, or for my pity, my sadness, my trauma, my daddy issues, whatever the issues were. I had an altar erected for that. I worship that.
Mm.
So, and then the little, I made reference to little girl Tracci. Um, I had to keep her quiet. I had to keep her quiet. I had to, like, she couldn't rear her head, because if her head was reared, then it would just kind of like, it would expose what was really going on with me. And I
Sure.
couldn't risk that. I couldn't risk being exposed. I
Mhm.
could not risk that, especially when I was in my heyday. I'm in all the magazines. I'm, doing this and doing. I could not risk that at that moment. I had to stay this, this mask of a person, this successful, strong person. I had to be that. I just had to be it.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
makes
We have a
sense.
yeah, we have a question here.
Uh-huh.
Ron Higgins, he says, Tracy, did you break up with your boyfriends because they disappointed you or because you were unhappy? I'm asking because I find it hard to believe that every guy that you dated that wasn't on your level,
Hmm.
all of them did something to disappoint you. That was his question.
Well, this is the crazy thing about this whole thing was I was determined to not be disappointed, but of course, every one of them disappointed me. That's why I said it was kind of like crazy. The whole thing was crazy. The whole concept was crazy because it really didn't make sense. They all end up
Right,
disappointing me. So,
right.
but the pain of it wasn't the same as it would have been if I was in love with them. Okay. So
Mm.
I was able to move on
That's
easier.
interesting.
Right.
Wow.
The pain wasn't the same because I wasn't really in love. But I, and so, but now, okay, that was then, because now there's no way I would never be in a relationship with anybody that I'm not in love with, like ever. So that was
Sure,
then. But
sure,
hindsight is 2020. So I know exactly what I was doing back then.
sure,
So
sure.
yeah, hopefully I answered your
Mm.
question.
No, well, I mean, that's it sounds like you it sounds like you've broken up, but that's the very interesting your approach and your strategy in terms of managing that um obviously the dysfunction connected with your father. But to your point, we say everybody kind of has two face or two different, one person here, one person here. I bet we all have kind of strategies. I gave this analogy of when I had a surgery on my knee, right?
Mhm.
And I remember going through physical therapy, and there's a certain thing they wanted me to do to kind of lift my behind up to stretch my leg a certain way, right?
Mhm.
And they said, well, make sure that you're even, right? And I felt as if I was even. Like I was like, well, I am even. And I even looked at myself. But the physical therapist is looking at me saying, no, you're not even. So they said, why don't you lift your right side up just a little bit more? Now, from my vantage point, I looked like I was crooked.
Mhm.
Then the physical therapist said, now you're even. Now, I just say that to say that I think we have normalized
Of course.
what we think is even or that we're good, and we're really not. Because we've
Absolutely.
been doing it for so freaking long. It's just part of the process. It's just
And
kind
how's
of what
that
we
working
do.
out? And how's that working out for everybody? Because it
Yep.
wasn't working out for me at all. And that's why things had to change.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah. No,
it
that,
had to
that
change. And you know
no,
what
that
I craved? I craved authenticity. I
mm,
craved being real. I craved being able to be vulnerable. I
mm,
craved that. Um, and I actually became that. And I am probably one of the most vulnerable people that you would meet. I am extremely vulnerable now. I used to be like this. I used to wear this mask. I used to
mm-hmm,
just always cover up and pretend. I don't pretend anymore. I don't
mm,
pretend. And if you read my book, you'll see I do not pretend. I tell the truth. I am a truth teller. And so, and it was a long journey to get there because I had to expose myself. But
mm.
I realized that my power came from that. Like I became this new person, this new creature because of that. Because of that. I felt so empowered because I was vulnerable, because I didn't have any secrets. I wasn't hiding anything. I was just Tracy, and that is the
Yeah.
most freeing thing that I could have ever done in my life. Is just
Okay.
what? Go ahead.
No. I was just saying that's powerful because you were just on TV a couple weeks ago, I think, or something like that, right?
Yes.
You were on late night on Fox Soul,
And I love.
and
Uh-huh.
you late night love. That's what it is. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
You guys can catch it on YouTube as well. Now, what's interesting, you said something that was so powerful. I want you to go back to when you're talking about being vulnerable, right? And
Uh-huh.
I think this is powerful because we're talking about someone like yourself who was struggling with the loss of the love of a father and how you sort of navigated that. But you found that I think something. What did you say? You said that that vulnerability, not being vulnerable, obviously, something about like putting up a brick wall, not letting folks in, but the vulnerability, or that you had to put yourself in a position of being
That I
vulnerable
could
to
be hurt.
actually that you could be hurt. That's what it was. Say it over again. Say it because
I
I've jacked
said
it all
that
up.
I, you know, prior to me becoming vulnerable, um, I would be in relationships with men that couldn't hurt me. And I said, now I put myself in relationships with men who can, because that's a part of being vulnerable. If I cannot, I have to risk being hurt if I'm going to have the type of relationship that I want.
Oh,
That
you
I,
need to say that again so everybody hears that because everybody out there trying to protect themselves and whatever
yes,
else. Please say that again, nice and loud, so everybody hears that loud and clear.
I
Please.
must be in a relationship where the possibility of getting hurt is definitely
Mm,
a reality. But that's the only type of relationship that I could be in, that I want to be in.
mm,
I need to be in a relationship that is a risk.
yeah.
That I don't, and I'm not saying be in a relationship with someone who is shady and I'm just talking about as far as the love and the vulnerability. you know, being in a relationship where someone could reject you.
Oh,
Like you can
yes, yes,
show
yes.
yourself and you can be this wonderful gift, but you might not be everybody's gift. You might not be
Hmm.
everybody's cup of tea. And I have to be able to be okay with that. I have to be okay with, being rejected, because being
Hmm.
rejected is real. It's something that
Yeah,
really can happen. Being
yeah.
disappointed is real. It's something that could
Hmm.
happen. But I realize that I'm not gonna die. I'm not
Right.
gonna die from it. It's just it may be a disappointment. I might be in the bed for a couple of weeks. I might be sad. I might have to cry. I might have to do all of those things. I have to feel those feelings. I have to feel everything that happens to me. I have to feel
Hmm.
it now, because
Hmm.
I have decided that I'm going to be vulnerable. I've decided
Yeah,
that I'm going to be real. I decided that I'm going to be transparent. I've decided that about my life. So with that comes the danger of being hurt. The
yeah,
danger, because being exposed, you're going to be open to rejection.
yeah,
So
yeah.
with that
Let me
comes that. But
let me take.
if without that, I have no chance of ever having the type of relationship that I dream about. I have to have that. I have to do that in order to have that type of relationship.
Let me tell you something. Facebook is lit. They're responding. Claudia Cooper, she made a very interesting. I said Claudia, Claudine,
Claudine,
Claudine. Claudine said, "Bigger the risk, the bigger
bigger
the
the reward.
reward."
Absolutely.
Um, um. So,
I
so what was,
100% agree with that, Claudine.
yeah. So I don't like to be on the Claudia. It's Claudine. So why would let's say someone's listening. I'm sure
Yes,
there's a lot of folks listening,
right.
and let's say they're getting to know somebody and whatever else. And we don't all know the relationships kind of go through this, this evolution, things like that. What would you say to people who are trying to realize true intimacy and love, but they're guarded? They're
You
like,
have to put guards down, because
is
what
there
you're
is there any
doing,
way possible that that can happen? You can really full optimal true love and intimacy while being guarded.
nope, you can't. It'll never happen. It will never happen, because what you're doing, not only you're guarding what goes in and what comes out. How the heck are you?
Oh, she said it. Say it again. Say it
you
again.
you're guarding what can come in
Come
and
from
you're
in.
guarding what goes out.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
not going to have that type of relationship if you're guarded. Period. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen.
Wow.
You're going to be unfulfilled. You I don't know. I think most people want vulnerability. Most people want a real intimacy and real closeness in the relationship. Most people
Sure,
want that,
sure.
right? You have to be vulnerable. You have to risk being exposed. You have to risk that in order to have that.
Yeah.
Unless you decide that I'm just going to settle the rest of my life, you know, then then that's what you're gonna have to do. And Phyllis said, God in therapy. That's exactly what happened. I let God
Yeah.
take the mask off of me, and I went to therapy. That's what
Yeah.
happened. Thank
Yeah.
God. God in therapy, Phyllis. That's right, girl.
Hey, look, you got folks popping over here, over here. So you got so Ron just said, yeah, that if you're trying to protect yourself is one thing. Veronica over here said, yes, vulnerability has its risk, but withholding it is so exhausting.
It
Talk
really,
about talk a little bit about your exhaustion of how, and here's like all of us probably on some level, we probably have some pride in terms of who we are and whatever else, but you were the it girl, you were her. And so for you to kind of, uphold this standard of perfection and nothing's kind of going on, it's probably unlike most people. How did you do it? And tell us what led to you pulling the plug on it.
well, naturally, I am a perfectionist. Okay. I'm a
Yeah.
perfectionist. I am. I am, you
What,
know,
what, what is a perfectionist? What is that exactly? What
I
is a
mean,
perfectionist?
I wouldn't even say I wouldn't say that I wouldn't call me a clinical perfectionist. Like I wouldn't say that I'm just like crazy perfectionist. I'm not saying it like that. But as far as I would say, like my grooming, you know, how I keep myself up. That's something I've been doing since I was a little kid. So
Yeah.
I'm just naturally that person, right? But and then, you know, and then achieving, you know, doing the things that I wanted to do, you know, actually achieving the things, my accomplishments or whatever. But what I wanted was authenticity more than anything.
Mm.
So I wanted my inner Tracy to match my outer Tracy. I was tired of just being this facade of
Yeah.
success.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wanted to actually be successful.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
doesn't mean financially successful.
Mhm.
It means successful in all ways. I'm not even talking about, when I talk about success now, I am not even talking about financial success.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm really not. I'm talking about my relationship with God. I'm talking
Mm.
about my relationship with myself. I'm talking about my relationship with my friends. I'm talking about just being authentic and real and free. I'm talking about being
Mhm.
the best version of Tracy that I could possibly be. That's
Yeah.
what I'm
Yeah.
talking about. That's
Mm.
that's to me, that's real success. Real success is when you can sit down with yourself and you can look at yourself and you could be 100% honest with yourself. And you can say, I don't like that part of me. I see this. I don't like it. I'm tackling it. I'm getting rid of it. I don't want it here. I'm doing whatever it takes to let that go, because that's what real courage is. And I had to have that type of courage in order to combat all of the trauma that I've dealt with, all of it. But what I will tell you is this: because I had that type of courage, and because I decided to be 100% authentic, and because I was able to um be that, and that empower me, it really has shown me my real value. Like living my life
Mm.
like that, I'm able to see my value. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? I'm able to really see it. And
Yeah. Yeah.
years I
Yeah.
wasn't able to see it because I was so busy pretending to be something
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
When I really became Tracy was when I discovered her power. When I
Yeah.
discovered who she really was, when I discovered how special Tracy
Yeah.
actually is. And
Yeah.
I don't say
Yeah.
that arrogantly or anything. I say that because Tracy is pretty doggone special. you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
she really, really is. And I say that with my chest poked out, but also with God. This is God pride. This is not like Tracy pride.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, you
Uh,
no, yeah, you are special. It's
I'm
not good.
saying that because I know the work that he's done on me and who I am today. And I'm pretty doggone proud, because what I'm proudest about is the fact that I surrendered to him and I let
Yeah.
him do the work that was necessary.
Yeah.
And I did not run from it. I didn't hide. I just became vulnerable and open, and let the chips fall where they may, and let God break me so that he can build me back up. That's what I did.
Mhm.
And that is a choice. And that's what I'm proud of. I'm proud that I made that decision. That's what I'm proud of.
Mhm. So, and maybe you said it, and maybe I missed it. I would just want to be
Well, what
clear.
did I miss? Because I
No,
was on.
so maybe I may have missed it. Not so you do. But what was the tipping point in your life? Because you're at a place that's extraordinary in terms of, embracing vulnerability, putting yourself in a position to be hurt and things like that. You're not allowing the tapes and the history connected to your dad sort of dictate the view, how you see the world and engage world.
Right.
What happened to you in terms of, I don't know, maybe, God spoke to you one night. I don't know, you got hit by a car and you woke up in the hospital and you say, I need to start being vulnerable. I don't know. What was it that caused this? Because I'm going to go on a limb and say that a lot of people out there struggle with what you were struggling with. I'm just going to say a lot of people out there are struggling with that, men and women alike. What was it for you?
Okay, let me make sure I'm hearing the question. What you're saying, what was the turning point
What was the turning point for you?
that made me
Yeah.
surrender?
There was surrender and say, you know what, forget this dumb stuff. I'm going to start being vulnerable, or at least on that path. Not that you arrived, but
Right.
when you said, I'm going to start doing something different. My grandmother used to say, if you always do what you always did, you always get what you always got. You said you were going to do something different.
You know, just like I said earlier, I was just tired of being two people. That's a lot of work to
Yeah.
be two people. It's
You
a
got
lot of
tired of
work.
being sick and tired. Yeah.
You know, it's a lot of work to wear a mask every day. It
Yeah.
really is a lot of work.
Yeah.
And you know, you got to keep up the facade. You know, you got to keep that up. You got to, like, you know, you got to, don't forget, you know, you're supposed to be this person, so like you need to act like that person, you know. And I just got tired of it. I just really
You were
wanted,
concerned how that was going to tarnish the Tracci Johnson image that everybody has come to
I could
know.
care less about that. I
Ah,
could care less. Honestly, when I told you about that suicide, that day when I wanted to commit suicide,
yeah.
tell you of that image was in the trash. Like, I
Yeah.
could care less. Like, I don't even like, just like, I don't even like talking about, you know, only when I have to talk about my accolades and stuff. I don't even talk about that stuff. I really don't. Like, I have to, half the time I forget. People meet me, you don't even know nothing about me unless you ask. I'm
Right.
never going to talk about it. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
don't, it's not, that's not what I value the most about
Mm-hmm.
Tracci.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I get mad. I'm one of those people. Don't tell me I'm pretty 25 million times. I don't want to hear that. Like, I want you to know Tracci. I want you to know what's going on the inside of Tracci, because that's what I value most. I
Yeah.
value the work that God has done on me. That's what I want you to see when you see me. And I mean, of course, you can't see that right away. You know, you got to get to know me to see it. But I get irritated, like literally irritated, talking about the superficial aspects of Tracci. I do. I get real irritated about that. I know
So you
it
get
sounds,
really tired with a brother. You say, I'm getting sick and tired. You tell me how fine I am. I know I'm fine. What?
that's not what
Stop telling me I'm fine.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I
That's not what
hope
you're
it
saying.
doesn't come
Oh,
up
okay.
like that. I hope it doesn't come up
Okay.
like that, because that's not what I'm saying. But what I'm
I'm
trying to
messing. I'm
say,
messing with you. I'm
what
messing
I'm
with you.
trying to say is that what I value so much about myself is not the tangible things, is not what you can see. The things that I value are the things on the inside of me more than anything. Those are the things that really, that's what I fought for all these years. That's what I fought for, you know, for this part of me. I'm almost getting teary-eyed, because that's what my daddy took from me. And I got it back. And that's what I didn't have all of these years. That's why I made so many terrible mistakes in my life, because I didn't have that. But I have it now. And, you know, and I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful now that God has replaced all of that. He gave it back to me. But even better
He did.
than with my father, if my father would have done it, he did it better than that. And that's what I'm so grateful about.
Yeah. Oh, here well, first of all, thank you for going deep there with us, Tracci. Aisha Rashan, I don't know if you know her. She said the OG of the hair industry. She calls you hard. She says, I feel that a lot of people look at the exterior and judge that. And it's true, because, you know, I mean, you know, we as men, I mean, we are particularly drawn by what we see, although we do typically, you know, brothers that are, you know, really about trying to be honest and legit do obviously want to look at the personality and things like that. But yeah, but I can imagine the and particularly in Los Angeles, where here in Hollywood, so much is just driven by what people see.
Yeah,
And this culture, it just,
it's the
I mean,
culture.
if you can fake the funk, if you can look the part, talk the part, and the whole bit, they just assume is all good. I mean,
Right.
I'm sure there are women who are fairly attractive, on the exterior. Maybe let's say maybe they don't have much going on in terms of personal life, but they can get into any club, any event, just because what's on the outside. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I can imagine that that's pretty interesting. And I'm sure you
Some people
have.
love that. They begin and end with that. I'm fine. What I mean, we live in that culture right now that you all you gotta be is beautiful. That's it. You
Yeah,
gotta be beautiful and you can get whatever you want because you're beautiful.
yeah,
That's the culture we live in.
yeah, yeah.
That
So
ain't good enough for me.
so let me ask you, and this may be kind of interesting. I don't mean to try to pull or try to get you to be emotional here, but I think we need to talk about this because I think people need to hear this. I mean, unfortunately, your dad is no longer with us. He's no longer alive, and you've had a chance to connect with him and things of that nature. I know
Yeah.
as well. And there are a lot of people who are listening who father maybe still alive, maybe not.
Mhm.
Um, and maybe they neglected them, they never were around, never showed them.
Mhm.
Um, I remember my dad was he was like, he essentially was trying to give me a big wheel as a teenager. I'm like, some of you guys with big wheel with a little.
Yeah. I know what it means. My brother had a
I was
big
like, I'm like, yeah, I'm a little bit too old for a big wheel now, right? It was kind of interesting. Um, so let's talk a little bit about forgiveness, right?
Yes.
And I would imagine part of your healing process, that healing
Oh,
journey,
absolutely.
involves some level of forgiveness. Walk us through how you dealt with that and maybe provide some insight and some gems to help others maybe confront their daddy issue situation that may be steeped in terms of that release, once they decide to forgive and how to actually come to a place to, be willing to forgive their dad.
Right. Well, my healing journey started with forgiveness, honestly.
Okay.
I got to a place, well, first of all, I prayed about this. I remember one time I just broke down and I was like, Lord, I don't like how I feel about my father. I said, can you fix that? Can you heal that? I wasn't even
Mm,
asking for reconciliation with my father. Even though we on and off had a relationship in my older years, I guess. Especially after my success. Oh, he came around a lot then. But you know, my father was a victim in his own home, you know.
yeah,
So once I
yeah,
realized that my father wasn't even capable of being the type of father that I needed, then I had to release him. I had to like really release him and just say, and
mm,
then I gained compassion for him
mhm,
because because he's not capable, because he was hurt.
yeah,
Of course, everybody is responsible for their own healing, of course. And when you become an adult, that's one of your adulting things that you need to be doing. You need to
yeah,
get some help for
yeah,
you're responsible for that. You can no
yeah,
longer blame your mama, your daddy, your nobody, because you're now an adult. It's time for you to take responsibility for you. So my dad never did that. He never did that, right? I watched him die. I literally watched him die,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
crying like a 5-year-old child about how his family treated him. My
Wow.
father was almost 80 years old, or I think he was almost 80 when he died, right?
Hmm.
So you spent all of these years, 75 plus years, crying about something that happened to you at 5 years old, and you never did the work to fix it. You never did the work
Mm,
to heal. You're on your deathbed still blaming everybody for your lot in life. And I looked at my dad that day, and I said, I will not be him. That will not be me. I will not be on my deathbed crying about what happened to me as a child. I'm not doing that. So that is what really, that was the start when I saw my father die, and I watched him die and how he died and how he never forgave his family. And that was really sad to me.
So he died not forgiving his family to your knowledge.
Well, to my knowledge, no, because he's still sitting up here crying about it, literally crying like a baby. Like it just happened yesterday. Like crying like that, right?
Wow.
And it broke my heart. It really did. Like it broke my heart because I was looking at my father as a child. And I felt like I wanted to put him in my lap and rock him to sleep. That's how I felt.
Yeah.
And so with that, I became this, I just started having compassion for him. And then once he died, I had released him of any type of debt that I felt like he owed me. I just released it because he wasn't even capable of giving me that. And then the Lord started dealing with me. He was like, look, you weren't supposed to be getting it from him anyway. How about that? How about you get it from me?
Wow. Nice.
How about you start falling in love with me? How about we develop our relationship, because I'm really your father. I'm your father. So, and that relationship is what strengthened, everything else. That's why I said he poured into me. He poured into me.
Right.
But my earthly father couldn't. And our earthly fathers are just supposed to be a demonstration or a reflection of, of how our heavenly father loves us.
Sure.
But why don't we just go straight to the source?
Right.
Just go straight to the source. And I didn't know that because I just didn't think that God loved me, because I felt the same way about God as I felt about my earthly father, that he was going to disappoint me and that I wasn't worthy or I wasn't valuable to him. So I felt like that for years. But then God pursued me. He started pursuing me. And he started showing me who he was in my life. And he started like answering little, like small little things. He started with like these small little prayers that I would ask. I would be like, Lord, can you do this? Or can you do that? Or Lord, can you show me this? Can you show me that? So he started small. Then he started building it up. He started growing my faith in him and helping me to see that he cares about every detail that concerns me. And that is when I started to really understand that he does love me. He does care about me. He cares about my heart. He cares about who I am. He sees me as his daughter. And I didn't know what it was like to feel like a daughter to anyone. And God had to show me that. And so as time went on, now I feel like God's daughter. Like I feel like I'm his number one daughter. I mean, I'm just,
Nice.
I do. I mean, I'm sure he has a whole bunch of number one daughters, but I'm just saying, I feel like I'm a number one daughter.
Yeah.
Because he shows me that, like, we have this intimacy, and he answers. When I tell you he answers prayers, he answers prayers. Like, I'm like, Lord, you heard that?
Nice.
So it's just it's been a beautiful experience, when the Lord knows that you need to understand your value and how he goes about showing you your value.
Yeah.
And he did that for me. He did that. He really did.
Well, you have such an amazing close relationship with God, as if he was a person standing right next to you. Like, I mean, you talk with such connection and vibrantness, if that's a word, right? Vitality, or whatever the word is, right? So how about people who are struggling with their, obviously, talked about how, like, said that God is telling you, well, actually, I'm your dad, you're trying to get it from your earthly dad. No, I'm the one supposed to be. I said, I'll be the father to the fatherless, right? Makes sense, right? So how important is that connection to God, particularly in areas of getting over a lot of different challenges in life, whatever else, but particularly deep emotional wounds, such as, being a daddyless daughter?
It's the most important. It's the most important thing that you can do, because I don't I mean, people go to therapy all the time, right?
Right.
But I believe that it's God and therapy together. Thank you, Phyllis. It's God and therapy. Because God is the one who's going to actually heal. Like therapy will expose it. Therapy will expose it. You learn the tools to deal with it when it shows up. You learn those things in therapy. But God is actually the one who actually heals you. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So the world, they can go to therapy all day long. They can go to therapy, and you can learn to manage your stuff from therapy, because that's what happens. You learn to manage it. You understand the tools. You know your triggers. You get all that stuff. You understand it. But God is the one who actually heals.
That's
restores.
So and restores. Okay, so we got to stay right there for a second. Again, we got like 10 minutes left. If you guys got a question, want to come on camera, make a comment, things like that, you can do that. Again, this is the virtual family cookout here, Urban Birds and Bees. We invite all. Tracci is dropping these nuggets. I want you to know that my cell phone is blowing up. It's lit on Facebook Live. Obviously, we're here. Even my longtime dear friend, Lori Reed, longtime fame executive producer, she said she can relate to everything that you're saying. Pretty powerful stuff. So you have started a movement. I mean, it's probably always been in you, but you've kind of formalized it within the last year or so, called the Daddyless Daughter.
The Daddy-Daughter Dilemma.
Right. Talk a little bit about that. Tell them what you do, and maybe people may want to reach out to you, kind of discuss some things regarding their situation, and to talk about the mission of your ministry.
Well, I was on a mission to discover my purpose for a long time, just trying to figure out what that was. Being a hairstylist, we have, you develop the skills of therapy sessions. I'm a therapist. I'm a therapist. They just need to give me a degree in it. But
right, facts. I mean, it's true, because you bring people to your salon. You're probably talking. You hear about everything. Oh my God, it's probably nothing you haven't heard about.
I'm telling you, over the years, people will talk to me before they talk to anybody, and that's the truth. Even new people that had never met me before, I'll find out all of their business, what happened with their husbands and their kids, a diagnosis from the doctor, all kinds of stuff. I'm going to be that person, because people feel comfortable with their well, I was going to say therapist, with their hairstylist. So yeah,
so if you wanted to, you could be a Christian Wendy Williams or Tasha K, huh?
I could. I really could. But anyway,
with all that intel,
I really could. But so
unwind with Tracci. Yeah,
right. I kind of got off. What was I saying? Get me back on track. You're
saying you got a lot of receipts on people. That's what you were saying.
No, you asked me a particular question that I was trying to answer, but I was going around about to get there.
So you do the Daddyless Daughter Dilemma.
Oh,
ministry, and you kind of talk about how asking people what that's all about.
I was trying to talk about how I got to this place, right?
Yeah.
So I was on this pursuit of finding my purpose,
right?
And working on getting my bachelor's in ministry. I got my bachelor's in ministry. Now I'm working on my master's in ministry.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. And I might end up one day being Dr. Trey. Just
you got you look, you got to get that doctor.
One day I might. I'm trying to figure out if I want to do that. I don't know yet, because I know how much work it is, and I'm not sure if I'm up for that.
Look, if I can do it, you can do it. Make that happen, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's just, I mean, it can be done. But anyway, so one day the Lord just spoke to me, and he was like, that's it. That's what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be helping women, because I was always passionate about helping women anyway. Been passionate about that. But it had to be something that I had come through. I've gone through relationships and all that stuff, but it had to be something more specific. And I know that I am the poster child for a daddyless daughter.
Okay.
And I said, and one day the Lord just confirmed that that's where I'm supposed to be. That's who I'm supposed to talk to. That's who I'm supposed to deal with. And there you have it. And you know, the sky's the limit when it comes to that, because there are so many women who don't even know that this is the root of their dysfunction. Even I wanted to say this too. I did want to say this. Some women think because they had stepdaddies that you know takes them off the plate, the table for being a daddyless daughter. You're still going to be affected because your natural father was not there. And you will always wonder why my daddy was not there. Why wasn't my natural daddy there? Was I not good enough for him to be there? So we'll have that issue as well. And I wanted to point out this one too. You can have daddy issues, even if your father was there and he spoiled you half to death. Some women say, "Oh, I'm a daddy's girl." Sometimes that's good, sometimes it's not. Depends on how your daddy treated you. If you didn't have no boundaries, if he didn't like hold you accountable to things, and you just could do whatever, and he just, oh, my little precious little princess. Then when you get in relationships with men, then you think they're supposed to treat you like that too. And so you got daddy issues as well. So I just want to point that out. There's so many women who have some type of daddy issues and they don't really even know that that's what it is. So
okay, so Tracci, I'm sorry, Tracci, we got a couple of questions in the chat. I want to make sure I get to these before we come around time. Okay, so Amber M says, Tracci, what was your biggest struggle when you underwent the process of letting go and letting God, aside from trust?
Just deciding to do it. That was the biggest struggle. You know, you talk about this. It's just like you're trying to develop this relationship with the Lord, and you know it takes prayer and it takes reading your word. You know it takes that. How long does it take you to actually start doing that? You know, sometimes we know what we're supposed to do, but how long does it actually take you to do it? Just like when you know you need to get up and go to the gym, but how long do you have to talk to yourself before you actually get up and go?
Yeah.
So it's just deciding that you're going to do it and then start the process of doing it. That's all it is.
Okay, so then Charmaine Carter, she said, that's true. A hairstylist prepares a woman before she goes to therapy. She says, Daddy passed away before you even came into this world. Does that count as a different kind of daddy issues?
Yeah, it does actually. You might have more abandonment issues because of that. Just him not being there because he didn't pour into you what you needed. And that's a part of.
You mean even if she never met him, he died before she, whatever, doesn't make a difference. Interesting.
Yeah, because whether he died or he just left, it's the same kind of thing. You see what I mean? Like he just wasn't there.
Got it.
That's the issue. He wasn't there. And some men are not there emotionally. So some men are not there physically, but then some daddies are not there emotionally. It's just about him not being there and not giving you what you need. Because just like we said in the beginning, it's the intrinsic value that the father places in his daughter. And if she doesn't have that, then that's where her issues come in.
So then Phyllis said, now that you're working on yourself and you know your worth and the root of the pain, is it easier to recognize imposters in any type of relationship you encounter?
Oh my God, is it? It is so, yes, it is. It's so much easier. I recognize so many, I'm telling you, I should be a therapist. I really should be a therapist. And then my discernment is so good now, you know, and because I've done so much work on myself, I can see when somebody hasn't. Like I know because I've seen those behaviors in myself. So I recognize them. You know what I mean? So I recognize.
Well, sounds like God is definitely calling you to that. So you need to get that credential then. What's up?
I don't know.
You got to do that.
We'll see. I don't know. He might come back before then. I mean, the way this world is going, Jesus on his way. I don't know. I'm just trying to get people saved.
That is so.
Go ahead.
That's hilarious. Well, listen, we've come to our time, but Tracy, before we get out of here, first of all, obviously, thank you for your amazing, thoughtful, breathtaking vulnerability and willing to really pull back the layers despite all the glitz and glamour and fame that you've achieved, and thank God for that, whatever else, that you choose to still serve a true and mighty God and tell your story and what you're doing in champion. So before we get out of here, can you just leave us with a few thoughts, particularly along this line, anything that you feel as though may be beneficial for us to hear before we get out of here?
Well, first of all, I just want to thank everybody who came on with us today. I appreciate your comments and you just being engaged in what we're doing. It's just been a blessing to even be in this place, in this space, and I just feel God's presence, and I know that He wants to use me, and I'm just so humbled by that, because I was just telling Carrie before we got on here that this was probably the hardest thing for me to do, because I am naturally shy. I'm very, very, very shy. And he doesn't believe it.
There's I don't believe.
No, most people that know me now, they don't believe it. And when I say that, they're just like, oh, yeah, right. Because you talk a lot or whatever. But I am really a shy person underneath it all. But God has really, he's dealt with me in that area. So I'm able to get on and I'm able to talk. But back, just give me a couple of years before, years ago, I probably would not have done this. So I'm just grateful for that. But I will say this, if you, I'm just talking to the ladies or in the gentlemen as well, because men have the daddy issue as well, or mama issues or whatever. I'm just going to encourage each and every person on here, just to really take a close look at themselves, learn to be honest with yourself, and then whatever it takes to get on the other side, whatever it takes to become the best version of yourself, do it. Do it. It is so worth it. The freedom that you have is so worth it. Um, I want, it's almost being having a kingdom mindset. Carrie, we've talked about this before, having a
Sure.
kingdom mindset, which
Mhm.
is wanting what God intended for you to have when He created you. I want
Mhm.
the life that God intended for me to have before all the sin and the sin entered into the world and all the stuff that happened in the Garden of Eden. What would life have been like before all of that, if that hadn't happened?
Yeah.
This is what God wants to give us. This is the
Yeah.
life that God wants to give us. He
Yeah.
really wants us to have that life. He created us for that life. But
Mhm.
because we have gotten so messed up emotionally, and and sin and all of that stuff has convoluted it, that's why we haven't had that life. So what I want is for everyone to develop a kingdom mindset, wanting to have the life that God intended for you to have before the foundation of the world.
Mhm.
And what that takes is just surrender, being
Yeah.
honest, doing it God's way, living your life for Him, wanting to please Him with your life, but asking Him to cleanse you and make you whole and make you new. And He will do that. And so that's what I'm encouraging each and every person to do. Be honest, take a real deep assessment of yourself and of your life. And if it doesn't look like how you dreamed of it to look, then do the work. Do the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a great, great, great word. So, Tracy, thank you so much for joining us and this amazing discussion we've had here. Want to thank everybody for joining us this evening. And before we go out, it's interesting because although Tracy's a woman, and we call it daddy issue, we assume that that's just associated with women struggling with the absence of their dad, and that's not the case. I remember my dad, and it was interesting. I was in the military, and I wanted to go back home to the Detroit area to go to college. And I got on the phone. I said, I got a couple of years left in the military. I want to come back home and go to college. My dad said, there's no room for you here.
Mm.
I was like, whoa. I remember calling my uncle who lived in California. And so this is my dad's brother. Said the same thing to him because I already had this affinity for Southern California and whatever else. And he said, and I didn't notice at the time, but he was dying. He was dying. And I asked my uncle, I said, look, I'm about to get out the military. I want to go to school. Can I come live with you? He said, of course you can. Oh my God. So imagine that my uncle wanted me. And when I took, that recall of rejection, it absolutely influenced and impacted so much of my life moving forward as a 20-year-old man.
Yes.
And from avoiding things that might look like it, I might get hurt. And then trying to win my dad's affection back,
Yes.
or let's say back because I had lost it, right? Trying to impress him, saying, see, I got this, I graduated from college, I got this, and so forth, and whatever else. And he didn't have a clue, and I was starved for my dad's attention. So the
Yes.
daddy issue thing can be really impactful. The other thing too about my uncle is when I came out to California to live with him, this was before the internet and cell phones. He had died, but he told my aunt Carrie is coming, and he had a room all set for me and everything else. So, and that's why I'm here in Southern California now, right? And so I just thank my God. I thank God for my uncle. But I just want to say that because if we downplay the impact of what we went through as children, absent
Yes.
father situation, whatever the traumatic situation may be, if we don't address it, it's not probably, it is going to manifest itself demonstratively, particularly in relationships. It's going to affect who you choose, how you tolerate mistreatment, and everything else. Those issues of abandonment, those issues of not being loved, that vacuum that exists inside of you because you didn't get the proper love, how God designed us,
Yes.
is going to rip you apart. And you kind of wonder why you're not having a lot of success dating and things like that. A lot of times you just haven't, it's not them, it's you.
Yes.
So we just want to say that. Thank you again for joining us here on the podcast. We'll be coming back in the next couple of weeks with another podcast, riveting episode. I want to thank everyone for joining us. Please go to YouTube. This will be posted on YouTube. Go to Urban Birds and Bees. You'll see it there. But we ask that you will subscribe and like us at Urban Birds and Bees as well. So for now, again, we want to thank Tracci Johnson for amazing work that she's doing with the daddyless daughter dilemma, world-class celebrity hairstylist. And I'm Dr. Kerry Neal for Urban Birds and Bees. Until next time, everyone have a good night.
Bye. Good night.